I'm going to take just a minute to read very quickly all the things that the ACA has done and to point out some of the specific things that Lindsey Wilson has taken advantage of. If you're on this campus and you've used the automated catalog, you've benefited from our work. 5,000 ebook titles and periodicals that we buy collectively and then share among the 37 colleges instead of every college buying them. So students at Lindsey Wilson have access to the same library resources as students at any major research university anywhere. We have a number of study abroad programs where we have sent students and faculty. We have money from the National Science Foundation for scholarships for kids that are majoring in science or are going to teach in science. We have money to give students chances to work with their faculty on independent research projects. We do technology training for students so they can, we train the students so they can help the faculty learn how to use the technology. For the faculty, the main thing we do is we give postdoctoral fellowships. So faculty who have a sabbatical can spend a year instead of a half a year doing research and finding out what's new in chemistry or physics or whatever they're teaching if they've been teaching for 15 or 20 years. And then we have all kinds of projects where faculty from different campuses collaborate. If you're a physics teacher and you're the only physics teacher on campus, if we put you with physics teachers on 37 other campuses, all of a sudden you have a department that you're really that you can work with. We have sent students and faculty to Greece, China, the United Kingdom, South Africa, lots of different trips. Perhaps the ones that students like the most and faculty like the most are the trips to the Salzburg seminars in Austria that we work with. And we've done all kinds of workshops in student affairs, for student affairs people, assessment of student learning and so forth. The list goes on and on, but I'm not going to keep on going here. Some of you are standing up, and I'm sure standing is not going to be too comfortable after much longer. To summarize, basically what we do is we raise money to make it possible for your students and faculty here at Lindsey Wilson to do things that they might not otherwise be able to do. Now, I will say that Lindsey Wilson, through Dr. Lucky and his wife, have done a lot more than a lot of our campuses in giving students opportunities to get off campus and do something special. But with our help, in the last few years, 18 students from Lindsey Wilson have received our scholarships, 2 faculty have received our fellowships, and just this month, or within the last month or two, we have given 5 students from Lindsey Wilson funding to work this summer for a health science in the health science area somewhere in their hometowns or in their communities near here. The ACA started with a grant to the University of Kentucky in 1980 for $280,000 for 3 years. We kept getting more and more money and more projects, and so finally, after about 10 years at the University of Kentucky, we moved to Berea. We left the university and set up our own office in Berea. We now have an endowment of $25 million, and we raise between $2 and $5 million every year for the various projects. My staff is 6 people. It's 3 accountants, me and a secretary and an office manager, and we have 4 project directors. So with 10 people, we manage to raise this money and to give it away to the deserving students and faculty on our campuses. I've often said it's easy to raise the money. What's hard is to do what you had to promise to get it. And the students and faculty here at Lindsey Wilson are always fulfill their promises to us. When we give somebody a fellowship, or a scholarship, they always come through with a story that we can tell that makes it easier to raise the next money. The main point of my speech today, though, is for those of you who are graduating, I'm hoping that the ACA has had an impact on you and your life here at Lindsey Wilson. Most of your life has been spent over the last 4 years learning, and now you're going to be going out and doing. And there is a difference between learning and doing, and not everybody that learns actually does. So what I want to talk to you a little bit about is my hope for you in terms of what you will be doing now that you have graduated. I'm going to use myself as an example of how sometimes knowing what to do and doing it are different things. Neither of my parents went to college. Neither one graduated from high school. But they, despite the poverty that they grew up in and the poverty that we lived in most of my life, they knew that it was important for their children to go to college. So what they couldn't do, they made it possible for my brother and I to do. So in some cases, you may end up helping somebody else do what it is that you had hoped you would do. I was educated to be a teacher. My parents wanted me to be a teacher because in my age, when I was growing up, that was the best way for a woman to make a living and contribute to society. Well, I'm no longer actually teaching. I did teach for a while in the public schools. I'm no longer actually teaching, but now I'm fulfilling the goal my parents had for me by helping others be better teachers. So in some cases, what you're going to end up doing may not be exactly what you want to do, but you will be doing things that are a reflection of what you were prepared to do. And you won't always be doing things as you plan, I don't think. My life has changed so many times, and what I want to say to you is that you shouldn't be afraid when changes are coming. For example, my first teaching job, to get a job, even a teaching job, teaching English, I had to agree to coach the girls' basketball team because the school needed a coach worse than they needed an English teacher. Now, the only thing I had played basketball in high school, but I'd never coached, and I didn't know much about the game. But I thought, okay, I learned how to learn when I was in college, so I can learn how to coach as I'm actually coaching. So I guess my point here is to tell you, don't be afraid to try something just because you've never really just because you don't feel that you're really qualified to do it, because you've learned a lot while you're at Lindsey Wilson, and you can keep learning while you are continuing to work. Many of you have studied the essays and poems and stories of Wendell Berry, and I know that he actually gave the commencement speech here several years ago when his granddaughter graduated from here. And I certainly wish I had been able to hear that speech. But I want to quote him when he's talking about your life and your vocation and your work. He says, "Every one of us is called by God or by our inborn gifts or talents to work that is our own. Each member of the community should perform the task for which he is fitted by nature. Looking back on my own life, I have the feeling that I was called to do the work I've done. I was a long time figuring out what my calling was and making a response that seemed to me to be credible. There was, of course, some error and misconception. It was an awkward business figuring out what I should do. I had a class under Wendell Berry when I was a student at the University of Kentucky in graduate school. And he talked a lot about doing your best at whatever it is you choose to do and continuing to learn as you grow. Continuing to quote Berry, "One's real duty to the future is to do as you should do now. Make the best choices, do the best work, fulfill your obligations the best way you can. If you do these things, the future will take care of itself." The job market today is a little threatening. A lot of people are afraid they won't find a job, or they're afraid if they find a job, they won't be able to keep it. I worked at Eastern Kentucky University at one of my first teaching jobs, and when I was offered a job at the University of Kentucky, I hesitated to take it because I had tenure and I had job security at Eastern. But I was convinced to try an administrative job at the University of Kentucky, and shortly after I got that job, I was offered the job running this program. And this program is funded by what we call soft money. So you never know from year to year where the money's coming from, what foundation is going to give you money, or if any is going to give you money. And so I hesitated because I thought, okay, I'm at the University of Kentucky where I have at least a good promise of an income every month, of a salary every month. But a friend convinced me, take this and try it. The year that I left the University of Kentucky to make the ACA an independent organization was the year they closed the office that I had gone there to work in. So my point is, don't be afraid to try new things, and don't be so concerned about job security that you are afraid to try new things. I can tell you that the best job security today is being good at what you do.